Hello, I want to give you a quick narrated walk around of my 1964 Mercury Comet Caliente that's for sale here on Bring a Trailer. I thought rather than try to point it out in pictures, I would just walk around and kind of show you some things that are not perfect on the car. Some of them are very almost invisible or hard to even detect, but anyway, there's plenty of pictures, I guess, in the auction. You'll be able to see some of these things up close if you want to blow up the pictures, but thought I'd give you, like I said, a quick walk around and describe the car to you maybe a little bit better. First of all, this car has always been, up until I purchased it, more or less, it was a desert car that came from Nevada. I bought it as a project. It's been completely refurbished. There's virtually nothing on this car that hasn't been rebuilt or replaced. It's virtually a new car. I'm driving it, and therefore it's going to have a few nicks here and there, some minor imperfections, which I'll point out here in a second. But I just wanted to give you the quickie on this. The first thing that I missed in the description when I presented it to Bring a Trailer was the fact that the windshield's cracked, unfortunately. Give you that look right there. So the car, every glass in the car is original car-like glass, including the windshield, which when I had the car restored, or I restored it, when the glass was out of it, and this glass or windshield was intact. However, when I took it to the glass shop and have them install it, it came back looking beautiful, everything was great, and I drove it for about a week, and then this crack appeared. So the windshields are about $300. They're online, you can find them, they're very easy. And then you got to buy a new gasket as well, which I think is 60 or 70 bucks. That's the major one I wanted to point out. The other was, when I first put the car together, I had matched tires all the way around, which are, in the rear is 225 55 16s, and I tried running those in the front, and I had a little clearance issue, and just on the right side, and you barely can see that possibly, but it burnt the paint a little bit there on the fender. I've downsized to a 215 in the front now, and it drives perfectly fine. Let's see, what else? There's a little tiny little nick here on the fender extension. Something chipped it. You may not even be able to see this one, but this is something I did myself. Dropped a wrench on the car when I was putting things together when it was brand new, so that's a minor little ding there. Could be easily touched up with some touch-up paint. Inside the car, door jambs, I believe there might be one down there. Again, very minor, can be touched up. This is probably the one that made me the most sick, is when I first got the car back from the paint shop. I didn't have the car far enough in the garage, and the garage door came down and nicked this fender extension. Hardly visible, but I did touch it up with a paint pen. Since this comes off, it'd be very easy to take that off and have it repainted, or just touch it up or leave it alone. That's the way I've been driving it. There's a little nick here. It came when the truck alignment was off a little bit. That needs to be touched up. The other thing I want to point out, and any of you in the Comet Falcon world, especially Comet, might recognize that sometimes the parts are virtually impossible to find. This car was 99% complete, except it was in boxes, more or less, when I got the car. There was one or two minor pieces missing. The one most important that I've not been able to find is the trunk key bezel. That's actually incorrect for the car. I've not yet been able to find one, even a rusty one. I've not been able to find one that's correct for the car. So that is actually off of I believe a 63 or 64 Galaxy. The angle looks pretty decent from the side here. It works, it's functional, but it doesn't quite flush up to the deck lid. That's one of the things I did want to point out. Might have been kind of difficult to describe in the written description. Anyway, the car, as I said, was a desert car. It was dry, unbelievably rust free, not a pinhole in this car anywhere. The previous owner from me was going to paint the car himself, and he started sanding and he put some primer on the car, and that's where he kind of stopped. When I picked the car up, it was mostly in gray primer. Started going around with like a 180 grit paper and sanding here and there, and I found the original paint in several places under the car. So this was an original paint car when he got it, and this is the first repaint of the car. Another thing you might notice if you're familiar with Comets, this trim in the middle is from the factory, left as a silver brushed aluminum. They never painted these on the Comets. You might recognize it, the Falcons, I think, on the Futura and maybe Sprint models as well. You would have seen a red, or could have seen a red on white two-tone like this. I didn't like or care for the way the silver looked against the Wimbledon white. It just not, there wasn't any contrast, and I thought with the red interior that would be a good added touch to it. I get a lot of compliments on that as I take the car out and local car shows, and when I drive it out, it gets a thumbs up just about everywhere it goes. I'll wrap this up. You'll see from the pictures, I think there's plenty of things to absorb. You'll have lots of questions, I hope, and I'll be there to answer all of them for you. One thing I did want to mention is the air conditioning system is all brand new with the exception of the evaporator. I tested the evaporator before I put it all back together. It held vacuum, so I cleaned it up, put it back in. Everything else is all brand new. Compressor, the hoses, condenser, dryer. It is, of course, set up for 134. I put an slightly oversized radiator. It's a two-row 1 1/8 inch tube, I believe, aluminum radiator. Modified a fan shroud from a later model Mustang to fit. It fits barely, but it does help. And with the car cooling, it will run, you know, on a hot day. I'm in Texas. It's not so hot today, and I say that to some of you might be very hot. It's probably 90 right now. But on 100-degree days plus, with the air conditioner going and sitting in traffic, it will bump to about 210 if it sits in traffic too long. Other than that, you get moving, it's back down to 180, 175, where it's supposed to be. But it's pretty common, I think, on these cars when you put air on them for them to run a little warmer. Let's see what else I can tell you. I've missed a few things, I think, in the description that I gave to Bring a Trailer. Minor things, but just to note, I replaced everything on this car. I mean, it's the heater from the heater box, plenum, the cables, everything was all new. And this is a long story to try to make it short as I can. The car's been modified with Borgenson power steering from the factory. This was originally a factory power steering car, but it was gone. So I decided to upgrade it to the Borgenson style. It's a challenge if you've never done one on these cars for a couple of reasons. The distance from the gearbox to the firewall is relatively close compared to, say, a Mustang, and it puts the gearbox virtually right up against the firewall. So not able to use a rag joint there, because actually the rag joint would be inside the car. So long story short, I had to modify the column to be able to use the column shifted automatic. I did not want to use or go to a ratchet shifter or an aftermarket shifter. I just wanted to leave the car original looking. So therefore, there was a lot of hours and time spent putting this steering column, fabricating it to get it to work with a Borgenson. But it works great. Car drives great, steers great. I have no complaints. I'm very happy with the results of that modification. Other modifications on the car, some are obvious. It's in the description you'll see it's a stroked 289. It's actually 333 cubic inches, built by a engine builder in a race shop in Houston that I've been using for years to build race engines and street car engines. They do a great job. The engine is, the car with a cam is a little bumpy, but it's relatively mild, easy to drive in traffic. It's not obnoxious, but it still punches out about 400 horsepower and 400 pound-feet of torque as well. So it's a very strong motor for a car that weighs 2,980 pounds. You'll see that too in the driving video if you watch it all the way through. I had a couple of places where I did some brisk acceleration. You'll see it's stout. The other thing I want to point out, everything chrome-wise, both stainless and the bumpers, plating, 100% original. I didn't touch these other than wipe them down, fine steel wool, and that's it. So I mean, you can tell the car was very well preserved, being a desert car. So again, same thing with the trim. There's of course places on the trim that aren't as shiny maybe as they should be, but they're pretty much dent free and straight. I have some spares that'll come with the car. The man that I bought the car from had collected a lot of different parts to go with the car, including some of the side trim, so I have some extra pieces to go there. I think that's going to be all to discuss here, but again, any questions, please feel free to contact me with a question at Bring a Trailer at the auction, and I'll be happy to get back to you as quickly as I can, and I'll be very engaged. So I'm looking forward to your comments and questions, and you guys have a great day.